Welcome to What Do You Say, the podcast that peels back the layers of remarkable individuals to reveal their extraordinary sides and their incredible lives. I'm your host, Frank Termini, and I'm absolutely thrilled to embark on this journey with you. The podcast name's What Do You Say, but that's not how it's said.
How do you say it?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
We say.
What do you say?
You got it. We say.
Hey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to What Do You Say with Frank and Andrew Termini. Today we're going to do something a little different. So today we're going to film a reaction to...
It's a reaction video.
It's a reaction video. Yeah,
It's Monday morning quarterbacking.
We're Monday morning quarterback of, a video, and we're both, football guys. Clearly, if you've been watching and following any of our stuff. And if you have been watching our stuff, please go out there, like, subscribe, leave us a review, and turn on those notifications so you can be updated anytime we
Put on new content.
Put on some new content.
There you go.
All right. So
No guest today.
no guest today. It's just you and I.
You and I.
It's just a couple brothers bullshitting about some stuff that is kind of controversial. A little
Not
bit.
kind of. It's incredibly controversial.
Okay.
And we're going to probably make it more controversial.
Maybe, we're going to verbalize our opinions.
Here, I'm going to try to be as diplomatic as possible.
So you're going to give us
Because internally, I'm actually boiling.
you're actually boiling. So what would you basically give me a one word that would basically describe how you're feeling? Like, what do you think?
I mean, this is out of line.
I want to tell you buttholes something. This shit is way out of line. And you squirrels better have some nuts in your mouth or you're going downtown.
And kind of
Here.
do you want? We haven't even spoke about what the topic of conversation is.
The topic of conversation is Harrison Butker's commencement speech at Benedictine College.
Okay.
Okay? And the Catholic Church's response to it. Well, here, and I shouldn't, there are spiritual leaders in the church rebuking the video, and I think that's out of line.
Okay. So should we start watching the video and then just pause for frames?
We could. Well, here. Let's initially. This is what kind of pushed me over the edge, because there were some other spiritual leaders. I'm not trying to call any individual out that made some comments rebuking the commencement speech that I was incredibly taken back by. And I shut my mouth. I didn't say anything. But then you have this. And this is from the Benedictine Sisters of Mount St. Scholastica. And they found it necessary to make a response to the controversial remarks Harrison Butker's commencement speech. Statement in response to the 2024 Benedictine College commencement address, the Sisters of Mount St. Scholastica do not believe that Harrison Butker's comments in his 2024 Benedictine College commencement address represent the Catholic Benedictine Liberal Arts College that our founders envisioned and in which we have been so invested. Instead of promoting unity in the church, let's remember unity as one of the words. Our nation and the world, his comments seem to have fostered division. One of our concerns was the assertion that being a homemaker is the highest calling for women. We sisters have dedicated our lives to God and God's people, including the many women whom have been taught and influenced during the past 160 years. These women have made tremendous difference in the world and their roles as wives and mothers through their God-given gifts in leadership, scholarship, and their careers. Our community has taught young women and men not just how to be homemakers in the limited sense, but rather how to make the gospel centered, compassionate, home within themselves where they can welcome others in Christ, empowering them to be best versions of themselves. We reject a narrow definition of what it means to be Catholic. We are faithful members of the Catholic Church who embrace, promote the values of the gospel, St. Benedict and Vatican II, and the teaching of Pope Francis, who's a socialist and a pro-choice, which I don't care. I just don't think you could be in that position and be pro-choice. Because I'm pro-choice. I don't want to say I'm pro-choice. It's not the decision that I would want my kids to make. Okay? Right? We've discussed that.
We've discussed that in another podcast.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's not the decision I would beg my daughters to not make that decision.
Right.
Right? But do what you want. Okay. We want to be known as inclusive.
Okay.
The
Inclusive.
same entity that told us, if you're in good standing with the church, you may come to communion at our aunt's wake.
Yeah. You can't if in good standing.
Inclusive.
In good standing with the church, let's define that. So, like, if you didn't go to Sunday Mass the week before, you don't get to go partake in the Eucharist.
Right.
Okay.
So that's inclusive. Right.
That's what they're defining. That's
Well,
inclusive.
but here, I don't think they get to call themselves inclusive.
Well, we'll dive into that.
All right. Okay. So welcoming community, embracing Benedictine values that have endured for more than 1,500 years and have spread through every continent and nation. We believe those values are the core values of Benedictine College. Okay. And that's basically what they say. We thank you all for your support of Mount Community and the value we hold. With St. Benedict, we pray, let us prefer nothing whatever to Christ, and may he lead us all together in life everlasting. Okay.
So do you want us to jump to a certain segment of the video, or do you want to just
Turn it on.
We'll put it on. We'll kind of make some comments as we go through, and let people decide here what they.
Gentlemen,
Can we turn it up?
class of
Yeah, give me a
2020
second. Hold on. All right. Back at it here. Let's take a look.
I would like to start off by congratulating all of you for successfully making it to this achievement today. I'm sure your high school graduation was not what you had imagined, and most likely, neither was your first couple years of college.
Guy's got a great
By
beard.
making it to this moment through
Nice
all
beard.
the adversity thrown your way
Good
from
hair.
COVID,
Great hair.
I hope you learned the important lessons that suffering in this life is only temporary. As a group, you witnessed firsthand how bad leaders who don't stay in their lane can have a negative impact on society. It is through this lens that I want to take stock of how we got to where we are and where we want to go.
Okay, so here, pause it.
Yes.
So the bad leaders comment. All right. Now he's talking about political leadership. Okay, it's his personal opinion. It doesn't have anything to do with the church.
It doesn't, but they invited him on stage.
And they approved the speech.
approved it, and they approved the speech, and they invited him up to share his personal story and insights.
Yeah. So here, whether you believe the leaders are bad, it doesn't matter. But this is
Political.
It's controversial. It's political. It has nothing to do with the church. Church doesn't even need to comment on it. Go
Right.
on.
As Catholics. One last thing before I begin. I want to be sure to thank President Minnis and the board for their invitation to speak. When President Minnis first reached out a couple of months ago, I had originally said no. You see, last year I gave the commencement address at my alma mater, Georgia Tech, and I felt that one graduation speech was more than enough, especially for someone who isn't a professional speaker. But of course, President Minnis used his gift of persuasion and spoke to the many challenges you all faced throughout the COVID fiasco and how you missed out on so many milestones the rest of us older people have taken for granted. While COVID might have played a large role throughout your formative years, it is not unique. Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues.
Once again,
Once again, he's talking about Political leadership.
Right.
All right.
Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as a growing support for degenerate cultural values in media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder. Our own
All
nation
right,
is
so
led
pause
by a
that.
man who-
Okay.
So he's talking about abortion, surrogacy, okay?
Which are
Should that is the Catholic Church should take a stance against that.
they should take a stance.
They should take a stance against that.
But it is
Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to take a stance against that.
it is a political.
It's not a political.
It's a political way to divide voters one way or the other, but it is a moral issue.
It is a moral issue. Okay? So and he should be free at Benedictine College,
Which you attended for 2 years.
which I attended for 2 years, to make these comments regarding. Now, I don't know about surrogacy. I mean, that's a tough call. I mean, if a woman can't have kids or she struggled with her child and she wants to have a surrogate and they can afford to do it, they should be able to do it.
So you're being open-minded, saying, you know what, that might be something that you don't agree with. You don't have to agree with everything he's saying.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with surrogacy.
Okay.
Throwing that in there.
Okay.
But abortion, knock your lights out. And,
Okay.
and the church should 100% be behind them. And if you're going to say that there's a part of this speech that you don't like, let's also make sure that we talk about what we agree with.
Yeah, I agree. So just like we're doing right now, we're going to agree with some things, and we're going
If
to
the Sisters of Mount St. Scholastica and other spiritual leaders in the Catholic Church want to make blanket statements that he's an idiot, okay, which some of them have done, they should indicate they should not be disagreeing with this.
No, I feel like this is pretty much in line with what the teachings of
Go
the
on.
Catholic Church.
Go on. It's irresponsible, Andrew.
proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally.
Pause it.
Okay.
The president making the sign of the cross at a pro-abortion rally. It's kind of an oxymoron.
I mean, I get what he's saying. It is an oxymoron, yet the president is sometimes a puppet, and they may have been a part of a party that may not actually feel as
President abandoned his faith in order to get votes.
period.
Period.
Which essentially might be selling your soul.
You know,
You know.
mean, he abandoned his faith in order to get votes, just like, in my opinion, the Catholic Church is rebuking him because they don't want to lose members from the left.
Okay, so let's keep going.
Go on.
All right.
He's been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all
Now, I don't know that he is the man behind the COVID lockdown. So,
Oh, it was Trump. Trump did all that.
Exactly.
I mean, that
So-
was during the Trump. But here, I mean, let's face it. Trump was in a lose-lose. Right now, everyone says Trump's a no-good asshole because of the lockdown. But back then, if he didn't lock everyone down, he was only worried about money, and that's all he cared about, and he didn't care about the well-being and the safety of the citizens.
he was in a lose-lose.
They all just want to bury Trump. You know.
Here, and I'm not necessarily a Trump or Biden supporter. I like RFK. I'll just throw it out there. But he was in a lose-lose.
He was in a lose-lose.
Okay, let's keep going.
Now here, and let's also talk about, he talks about gender ideologies, okay?
Oh, he hasn't spoke to it yet, though.
He just did speak to it.
Okay, go ahead.
He just talked about dangerous gender ideologies. Catholic Church shouldn't have a problem with that statement.
No, they shouldn't.
That the Catholic Church should not have.
You can go back to Romans, and it clearly speaks about things related into the same sex, same sex laying in bed together.
Yeah.
And what I'll say is this, is as a Christian, we're supposed to love the sinner, hate the sin. So I'm not going to necessarily tell someone who is homosexual what they can and can't do. It's really not for me to say that,
But you can say that it's rooted in sin.
I could say that I will love the sinner and hate the sin.
Okay, right. But what I'm saying is, okay, let's talk. Let's just call out all Frank Termini shit. He's volatile. He swears. He's got anxiety. He sometimes doesn't trust God. He sometimes puts more faith in money than he does God. I got a multitude of sins.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, multitude of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been promiscuous. I've struggled with addiction. I mean, on and on and on the list goes.
Right.
We got to have a fucking month supporting, drug addiction and being a drug addict and all that. I mean, no, you don't glamorize it. And that's what he's talking about. Okay, he's saying yes, this is in fact rooted in sin, and the Catholic Church should 100% support that statement.
The Catholic Church should support that statement, yes.
We're not saying their sin's any worse than ours.
No.
It's not.
All sin is equal.
Sin is sin. But you don't say, oh, Frank, it's okay that you're volatile. Oh, Frank, it's okay that you choke your son on the way to church on Sunday. Oh, Frank, hey, it's okay. You can be anxious and not put in all your faith in God. That's okay, Frank. No, you don't say that.
Right. No. Okay, I agree with you on that.
You don't say that.
You don't say that. I don't really understand the whole Pride Month, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it, so I'm not going to
honestly
verbalize my opinion on it because I just don't know how I feel about it. But I will say, again, I try to default to the mentality of love the sinner and hate the sin.
Yeah, I mean, here, I don't know about pride. Here, at the end of the day, Pride Month is celebrating sin. That's what it's doing.
That's what it's doing. I'm not celebrating anything, but I'm also not persecuting anything there.
No, I'm not persecuting either. The only thing I'm saying is, as Christians or Catholics, you should concede to the fact that homosexuality is rooted in sin. And the church isn't doing that.
Okay.
Go on.
All have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up. You know, the difficult and unpleasant things. But if we are going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition. We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice. It is safe to say that over the past few years, I've gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of a platform, but God has given it to me, so I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths about accepting your lane and staying in it.
So I will say this. People who are getting pissed off about Harrison Butker, Christians and Catholics, that's like going to a barbecue joint and getting pissed off when they serve you barbecue.
No, I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, so here we go.
As members of the church founded by Jesus Christ, it is our duty and ultimately privilege to be authentically and unapologetically Catholic. Don't be mistaken, even within the church, people in polite Catholic circles will try to persuade you to remain silent. There even was an award-winning film called Silence, made by a fellow Catholic, wherein one of the main characters, a Jesuit priest, abandoned the church and as an apostate, when he died, is seen grasping a crucifix, quiet and unknown to anyone but God. As a friend of Benedictine College, His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron said in his review of the film, it was exactly what the cultural elite want to see in Christianity: private, hidden away, and harmless.
Hold on, that's not false. Anytime somebody makes a conservative, biblically based comment, they are trashed for it. And he's being trashed for it. The problem that I'm having is he's being trashed for it by his own kind.
Right. And I do agree with you on that. And we're supposed to have the freedom in our country of religion. You know, we can believe what we want to believe, and we can act on those beliefs as long as it's not harming others. And I don't see this as a speech that is intended to harm anyone.
He's not harming anyone in this speech.
He's just verbalizing principles that he believes have been rooted in the Catholic faith.
I don't think that you hold on. You can't say what he believes. They are embedded in the Catholic faith.
No,
I mean, that's like trying to argue 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4.
Well, some people will say that 1 × 1 is actually 1, but you can't take $1 times another dollar and not equal 2. But that's another story altogether.
Well,
watch Terrence Howard's deal with Joe Rogan. Unbelievable.
But you understand the kind of thing I'm talking about.
I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right. These are not. You can't argue these principles as a Catholic. It just is what it is.
Right.
And at the end of the day, you know,
the Catholic Church and the principles that they stand on are black and white.
Right.
They are black and white.
All of a sudden, the spiritual leaders of the church are trying to muddy the waters and make it gray.
Let's keep.
And that's abundantly clear when you read the Sisters of Mount St. Scholastica's response to it, as well as other people's response to it who are spiritual leaders in the church. Okay, like I said, that are rebuking this.
I mean, do you think that the spiritual leaders took offense to him calling them?
He called them out,
saying we need to do a better job.
Here, you know what? Maybe they did, but then rebuke that.
Every leader can do a better job.
Hold on, rebuke that part of it.
Yeah, no,
don't make a blanket statement that he's an idiot.
No, I agree with that. No,
don't make a blanket statement that he's an idiot.
I think at the end of the day,
I could understand as a leader you being pissed off that he said this because he, in my opinion, is generalizing all the leaders, and he's probably really only talking about 1 or 2.
Right,
which is an error on his part.
But he don't want to specifically call any.
Just like I don't want to call out the people that I'm talking about.
Right. So essentially, it feels like the leader's response should have been not calling him an idiot, but yet here are the leadership principles that we abide by, and here's what we lead by, and more so defend their stance as a leader.
Here, let me ask you something. Why are you getting mad unless he's talking about you directly?
Agreed.
Right? I mean, clearly he doesn't think all leaders of the church are, taking pictures and whatever the heck he said. He's gonna get to it.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Our Lord, along with countless followers, were all put to death for their adherence to her teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately, truth is in the minority. Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail. But
I don't know what he's talking about there. I'm not familiar with what.
I don't know what he's talking about either. I think what he's saying is maybe indicating that the Jews killed Jesus is anti-Semitic. I don't know, and but I don't know. I mean, hate speech doesn't put you in jail.
No,
right? I mean, so I don't know what he's talking about there either. So that's, but. Well, that's not a bash on the church's leaders. That's a bash on society and the culture.
Again, yeah, that's politically driven.
Right.
No mistake, before we even attempt to fix any of the issues plaguing society, we must first get our own house in order. And
stop it
with our leaders.
We need to get our own house in order. The response to this does nothing but solidify his comment. The house isn't in order.
And what does he mean by the house?
He's talking about the church.
He's talking about the church.
Before we can fix anything else, we have to get our own house in order. He's talking about the church. He doesn't feel the church is in order. It's not.
I don't know that's how I receive what he just said.
Rewind it.
Well, hold on. I'll just elaborate a little bit. I think he might be talking about your own personal household as to what he might be speaking.
Here. Maybe I misunderstand it. Rewind it a little bit. Can you go like 10 seconds?
Yeah, I got you.
Unfortunately, truth is in the minority. Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail. But make no mistake, before we even attempt to fix any of the issues plaguing society, we must first get our own house in order.
You can look at it either way. I'm looking at it as he's saying that the Catholic Church isn't in order. Because he's saying our own house.
Well, and I'm looking at it as I foreshadow, knowing what he's about to speak to, the household.
Let's go.
Okay.
Starts with our leaders. The bishops and priests.
He goes to the leaders and to the bishops. He's talking about the church.
He's talking about the church.
He's talking about and this is where people I could see could get upset. Go ahead.
All right.
Fathers must be rightly ordered. There's not enough time today for me to list all the stories of priests and bishops misleading their flocks, but none of us can blame ignorance anymore and just blindly proclaim that that's what Father said.
Now, there have been people who have misled their flock. He's not lying there.
No, it happens all the time. The flock, here's what the problem is. People look at a priest, okay, and they look at a nun, and they really think that they don't struggle with the same shit we do. And it's just not true.
It's absolutely 100% not true. Let's put it out there.
They struggle with the same shit we struggle with, and they fail with the same shit we fail with.
We had a priest on our podcast, and he spoke to struggling with addiction.
Okay,
we're all human here.
And I think, they stand up there in front of the congregation. They have the robe on and the whole deal, and it's making people sometimes forget that they're human.
Human and are sinners just like we are.
And they're sinners
in desperate need of a savior.
That's it. They need grace and they need saving just like anyone else does. And at the end of the day, they fail.
And let's speak to this. Since we talked about the sister's comment, there wasn't a lot of grace in their response.
Hold on. And the only thing that they bitched about was the homemaker comments.
Well, and we'll talk about that. We'll get into that.
Because I'm going to tell you right now, they misinterpreted what he said. Go on.
All right, let's do it.
Because sadly, many priests we are looking to for leadership are the same ones who prioritize their hobbies or even photos with their dogs and matching outfits for the parish directory. It's easy for us laymen and women to think that in order for us to be holy, that we must be active in our parish and try to fix it. Yes, we absolutely should be involved in supporting our parishes, but we cannot be the source for our parish priests to lean on to help with their problems. Just as we look at the relationship between a father and his son, so too should we look at the relationship between a priest and his people. It would not be appropriate for me to always be looking to my son for help when it is my job as his father to lead him.
And so on this part right here, do I really agree with it? I mean, at the end of the day, iron sharpens iron. Okay, and here is a classic example of someone who is putting a priest at a higher level than he is. So why doesn't the priest maybe need his help? Why doesn't the priest maybe need his discernment? Why doesn't the priest maybe need his guidance? Why? Would
a priest receive that from a layman? That's the question.
I think some of them would. I know some of them that would, and I know some of them that would have not.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I think that's all with...
Because I think even priests sometimes think that they are more spiritually discerned than someone who's not a priest. And that's not always the case.
And just like when Jesus asked Peter, who loves me more than... And Peter, I love you more than thee. I love you the most, And it's like, there was a little bit of self-entitlement that nobody could love Jesus more than he did.
So, you mean to tell me a priest in his time of weakness can't go to one of his other parishioners that maybe he's become good friends with? He should be able to.
He should be able to.
He should be able to.
If the church is about the people, you should be able to confide in other spiritual leaders who have not taken the same vow
Yeah.
as you.
I mean, so
I would think that would be an open-minded approach.
I mean, so does this part right here, do I necessarily agree with? No, I don't.
Okay.
But let's go on.
Priests are ordained to serve and should not yield to temptation to imitate lay people, but to be priests through and through. Tragically, so many priests revolve much of their happiness from the adulation they receive from their parishioners. And in searching for this, they let their guard down and become overly familiar. This undue familiarity will prove to be problematic every time because, as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt.
Must be Tete.
Yeah.
St. Jose Maria continues that some want to see the priest as just another man. That is not so. They want to find in the priest those virtues proper to every Christian and indeed every honorable man: understanding, justice, a life of work, priestly work in this instance, and good manners. It is not prudent as the laity for us to consume ourselves in becoming amateur theologians so that we can decipher this or that theological teaching, unless, of course, you are a theology major. We must be intentional with our focus on our estate in life and our own vocation. And for most of us, that's as married men and women. Still, we have so many great resources at our fingertips that it doesn't take long to find traditional and timeless teachings that haven't been ambiguously reworded for our times. Plus, there are still many good and holy priests, and it's up to us to seek them out. The chaos of the world is unfortunately reflected in the chaos in our parishes, and sadly, in our cathedrals too. As we saw during the pandemic, too many bishops were not leaders at all. They were motivated by fear of being sued, fear of being removed, fear of being disliked. They showed by their actions, intentional or unintentional, that the sacraments don't actually matter. Because of this, countless people died alone without access to the sacraments, and it's a tragedy we must never forget.
Once again,
Catholics,
he's
we can look to
speaking
so
of
many
this in
examples.
hindsight.
He's speaking of this in hindsight.
The leaders of the church were in the exact same position Donald Trump was. If they opened up the church, they were going to be no good pieces of shit that didn't care about the health of their parishioners. And if they closed the church, then they make these comments about them. They were in a lose-lose situation. Leaders a lot of times are. It is what it is. Once again, another comment that he's making, I'm not really jiving with.
Right.
It's easy to say this 4 years out when we know COVID now was really not much more than the flu. The vaccine's been out. People who want the vaccine have got the vaccine, and everything's kind of settled down.
He's not really showing any grace towards the circumstance and the leadership that they were under a lose-lose.
They were in a lose-lose.
He's not showing much grace.
So I could see where the Catholic Church would want to rebuke that.
I think that would be
But nobody's rebuking that.
No, I agree. So let's keep moving forward.
Of heroic shepherds who gave their lives for their people and ultimately the church. We cannot buy into the lie that the things we experienced during COVID were appropriate. Over the centuries, there have been great wars, great famines, and yes, even great diseases, all that came with a level of lethality and danger. But in each of those examples, church leaders leaned into their vocations and ensured that their people received the sacraments. Great saints like St. Damien of Malachi, who knew the dangers of his ministry, stayed for 11 years as a spiritual.
That is also a blanket statement. You don't know that if somebody was in the hospital that they didn't try to administer anointing of the sick and the...
Hold on. Were they allowed to?
Exactly.
Here, there were people who didn't get to see their mother die, didn't get to see their father die. People died alone. They probably weren't allowed to do it.
Again, we had Devin, who was on our podcast.
Wasn't allowed to see her husband.
Wasn't allowed to see her husband.
Died.
And
he was young.
And he was
in
young
his
man
40s.
who died, and she had to be communicating with him
On FaceTime.
on FaceTime.
Yeah.
So, I again, something that I don't necessarily agree with.
Right, but he's not. He's once again what he's doing here is he's targeting the church leaders and he's making them sound irresponsible. So now, if the spiritual leaders of the church hopped on and rebuked this, me and you wouldn't be having this podcast right now.
We would not be having this podcast.
I wouldn't be having the conversation.
Okay, I agree.
Leader to the leper colonies of Hawaii. His heroism is looked at today as something set apart and unique, when ideally it should not be unique at all. For as a father loves his child, so a shepherd should love his spiritual children too. That goes even more so for our bishops, these men who are present-day apostles. Our bishops once had adoring crowds of people kissing their rings and taking in their every word, but now relegate themselves to a position of inconsequential existence. Now, when a bishop of a diocese or the bishops' conference as a whole puts out an important document on this matter or that, nobody even takes a moment to read it, let alone follow it. No. Today, our shepherds are far more concerned with keeping the doors open to the chancery than they are with saying the difficult stuff out loud.
And I don't disagree with what he's saying there.
Again,
Now, I could see where a church leader would be pissed, but I don't disagree with what he's saying there at all.
I feel like that is a very comprehensive statement, and it's not and it's really not a comprehensive issue. You don't know that the whole group of leaders.
He's generalizing
He's
him.
very much generalizing.
He's generalizing him, and I could see where some of them would be pissed. Okay, I could see that.
Yeah.
Go on.
It seems that the only time you hear from your bishops is when it's time for the annual appeal. Whereas we need our
Again,
bishops
general.
to be vocal
No, yeah, for
about
sure.
the teachings of the church, setting aside their own personal comfort and embracing their cross. Our bishops are not politicians, but shepherds. So instead of fitting in the world by going along to get along, they too need to stay in their lane and lead. I say all of this not from a place of anger, as we get the leaders we deserve. But this does make me reflect on staying in my lane and focusing on my own vocation and how I can be a better father and husband and live in the world, but not be of it. Focusing on my vocation while praying and fasting for these men will do more for the church than me complaining about her leaders. Because there seems to be so
Let's talk about that. He is kind of complaining about the leaders.
He's 100% complaining.
So
about
that's
the leaders.
kind of a contradictory statement.
Yeah, he's 100% calling the leaders out, and he's complaining about it.
And he says it's going to do more than complaining. What?
Praying would do more, and and I get it, but he's complaining about the leaders.
Yeah, but he did state that he prays and fasts for them. So he's doing as the Catholic Church
or maybe what he's doing is just instead of complaining, he's making others aware.
it could be an awareness statement.
It could be an awareness statement, and he's
it-
telling everyone else, hey, if you're feeling the same way, instead of bitching and complaining, go to the cross.
Go to the cross, pray about it.
Pray about it.
All right.
much confusion coming from our leaders, there needs to be concrete examples for people to look to in places like Benedictine, a little Kansas college built high on a bluff above the Missouri River, are showing the world how an ordered, Christ-centered existence is the recipe for success. You need to look no further than the examples all around this campus, where over the past 20 years, enrollment has doubled, construction and revitalization are a constant part of life, and people, the students, the faculty and staff, are thriving.
Okay, so this is just kind of an off-the-topic kind of thing that way I got to speak to. Atchison has a certain smell about it.
Yeah, it sure does, Drew.
You know, and
Sure does.
And yes,
I know people that haven't went there because of that wheat smell that you're talking about.
it's a very distinct smell.
Yeah.
So if they could solve that issue, they'd probably up enrollment.
Yeah.
So let's keep going.
This didn't happen by chance. In a deliberate movement to embrace traditional Catholic values, Benedictine has gone from just another liberal arts school with nothing to set it apart to a thriving beacon of light and a reminder to us all that when you embrace tradition, success, worldly and spiritual, will follow. I am certain the reporters at the AP could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it.
Pause it.
The true.
Okay.
All right. It was a dig.
Very much a dig.
It was a dig, and it was confrontational. But let's remember,
If you got a devout Catholic, you invite a devout Catholic to speak at a Catholic graduation speech, don't be surprised when you get devout Catholic shit.
okay, and at the end of the day, as a devout Catholic or Christian, is homosexuality rooted in sin?
If
you're a Catholic and a Christian, is homosexuality rooted in sin?
yes,
Okay, so then is the statement wrong?
no,
Is it off color?
I wouldn't even say it's off color.
Could he have found a better way to say it?
Maybe,
Okay.
but then again, the Bible confronts you, and he is kind of confronting the issue.
The Bible gets in your space, it gets in your business, and can sometimes make you feel uncomfortable, kind of like an unfolded lawn chair. That's what it's supposed to do. The Holy Spirit is convicting,
Yes,
okay? By convicting, I mean it will tell you you're wrong.
it will tell you you're wrong, but it also tells you to love one another.
It's not saying you are what you do.
It's
It's saying you're wrong.
and sometimes people don't like to hear that they're wrong.
Well, you know what?
It is what it is.
Tough shit.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify him. Reading that article now shared all over the world, we see that in the complete surrender of self and a turning towards Christ, you will find happiness. Right here in a little town in Kansas, we find many inspiring lay people using their talents. President Minnis, Dr. Swafford, and Dr. Zimmerer are a few great examples right here on this very campus.
Will our
that
audience
will
be
keep
able
the
to
light
hear
of
this
Christ burning
louder?
bright for generations
Yeah?
to come.
Yeah.
Okay.
Being locked in with your vocation and staying in your lane is going to be the surest way for you to find true happiness and peace in this life. It is essential that we focus on our own state in life, whether that be as a layperson, a priest, or religious. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, you are sitting at the edge of the rest of your lives. Each of you has the potential to leave a legacy that transcends yourselves and this era of human existence. In the small ways, by living out your vocation, you will ensure that God's church continues and the world is enlightened by your example. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world.
Pause it.
Okay. Let's talk about that statement.
So here, this is what the sisters are complaining about.
Okay.
All right. Now he's very careful in his wording.
He
He's
did say venture to say.
Not only venture to rewind it,
Okay.
start it.
Most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage. And
Some of you may go on to have successful careers, but you are most excited about your vocation as a mother and a wife. He is saying order affects outcome. And while you may be a successful career woman, make sure you're a wife and a mother first.
Okay. So let's speak to that because I have some maybe different views, another side of it. Okay. So not all women feel called to be a wife and a mother. That being said, he's making a blatant statement.
He's talking about the ones who choose to.
Okay, so now let's also speak to this. This is a commencement speech, right? Some women, and I'm not saying they're right nor wrong, but are finding his comments a bit tone deaf because they feel that it's really not applicable to the event that he's speaking to.
It is in a Catholic school, it is.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but he's speaking at a graduation, so you have to see how some women might feel that That is tone deaf.
Here, finish it.
Okay.
To this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother.
Now look at what he said. Living her vocation, he says wife first. He's talking about order affecting outcome. He's careful in his wording. He didn't say mother and wife. He's saying wife and a mother. And when he refers to himself, he refers to himself as husband and father.
And in the Christian and Catholic faith, order affects outcome.
You're a father first. You're a mother first. Dang it. You're a wife first, then a mother. You're a husband first, then a father.
And let's speak to your own specific situation in life. You had a child out of wedlock.
We could have talked about that one too at the very beginning. Go ahead. Yes, I did.
So we could add that to the things that, we are all unperfect, but I think still yet women are getting hung up on the fact that they are hearing him say your value is found in being a wife and a mother.
I don't believe that's what he's saying.
I don't believe that's what he's saying either, but I'm telling you that's what some women are hearing.
Keep playing it, because then he even talks about himself. Go ahead.
All right.
I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school.
He loves the band. Brings him to emotion.
Would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
Now, let's speak about that. He is uplifting women in the sense that he's glorifying the idea of being a homemaker.
It's a huge part of it.
It's a huge job. And if you were raised in a household with only one parent, or you are a single mother or single father, I would venture to say that is a huge responsibility and extremely difficult.
Yeah, but nowhere is he saying that women shouldn't go get jobs.
I don't believe he's saying that. Again, we'll circle back to the fact
he
that
is saying don't get lost in your career and forget what's really important.
if you so choose to be a wife
And a mother. Right. There you go.
There is extreme value in the nuclear family.
Clearly.
Clearly, there's extreme value in the nuclear family, and I don't know that anybody can disagree with that.
Sure, they can. The Black Lives Matter, the whole organization disagrees with it. They want to disrupt the nuclear family. It's on their website.
I can't speak to that. I haven't read it.
It's on their website.
I'm not educated on that.
Go ahead, keep playing that. And
All right, we ready to go?
yeah.
All right. It got a pretty good round of applause.
She's the primary educator to our children. She's the one who ensures I never let football or my business become a distraction from that of a husband and father.
Boom. Stop.
She's the
She makes sure that he stays on track with his vocation as a husband and a father. He's still got a career.
He's still got a career, and so should every other woman in the world, if they so choose and feel called to have a career, should have a career, and if they so choose to be a wife and a mother, they should have.
Just like he has a career and he's a husband and a father. He just said it.
So
you just got to read between the lines a little bit.
And again, I think that goes back to showing grace about what he's saying. Showing grace to what he's saying. And it's tough to convey what he's saying. Again, I'll circle back to the fact that I could see how women might find him a little tone deaf.
Go on.
The person that knows me best at my core, and it is through our marriage that, Lord willing, we will both attain salvation. I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand, how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no.
Okay, so pause it. Now, that was where they could be thinking he's telling him not to have a career because he's talking about his own wife.
Yeah.
Not having a career. But,
Right.
I mean, he's also in a situation where his wife doesn't have to work.
She does not have to work,
So they get the luxury and are blessed enough to be able to do that.
which is very rare.
Nowadays,
Nowadays is extremely rare.
it's professional athletes and the top 5% of, people who make the, what's the word I'm looking for?
Have the means to make that kind of money, to have the means.
I mean, if you're going to have a family of 4 or 5, if the husband or the wife isn't taking home 20 grand a month, you're probably going to need the other person to work.
Absolutely. And let's speak to the fact that even if you do have 4 or 5 kids and your wife still wants to work because that's what she feels called to do, then you have to make
You sacrifice your lifestyle.
you sacrifice your lifestyle and you do other things
Yeah.
for your wife to have the
I know people who have sacrificed their lifestyle because they feel it's very important to stay home, the mother to stay home. We had our mom home with us. Dad was that way. Here, Dad did not want mom working.
but mom didn't really want, she wanted to be at home.
Well, yeah, right.
That was what she desired.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to, women have been oppressed and have had to fight to be accepted equally in the workforce. And again, that's why I think some women might find his comments slightly tone deaf. That said, I don't think that's his intention or what he's trying to convey.
He's not trying to convey that you shouldn't work.
No.
He's just trying to convey that be a wife and a mother first and your career is third.
Yeah. No.
Clearly he's putting God first because,
Yeah.
I mean, he's up there doing what he's doing, saying what he's saying.
Right.
Right? So ultimately the order of operation would be God, your wife, your kids. Here, how many divorces happen because the significant other puts the kids before
or puts the career before it.
right. Anytime that happens, there's turmoil.
Order affects outcome.
There's turmoil. I don't care. You could talk to any psychiatrist, any psychologist, any marriage counselor. I guarantee you there's not one out there that can rebuke the fact that when one party puts the kids first before the marriage, there's trouble. And if they put the career first before the marriage, there's trouble.
Right.
Okay?
I think that you're spot on.
And that's all he's saying.
And that's what I'm hearing him say. But I'm a male again.
He's never once
It's-
even slightly indicated women shouldn't be in the workforce.
I think, and we should speak to this as well. I think the word homemaker to a lot of women have a negative
Connotation.
I really do think that word just in general has a negative connotation in a lot of women's mind because they feel like they have more value than that. And I'm not arguing that they're wrong. I'm saying you have value in whatever you feel called by God to do.
Well, here, if once you have a husband and kids, you have to be a homemaker. Both people, husband and wife,
Yes.
have to be homemakers.
Yes.
Okay, and everything else comes after that.
Yeah, I mean,
And
absolutely.
he put himself in that category as a homemaker too.
He did.
And he also said his wife keeps him in check.
Yes. No, I did hear that, and I do agree.
So he's putting his wife above him. He's by no means pushing women down.
I don't feel like he's pushing women down.
He's elevating them.
I feel like he is elevating the term of the word homemaker and trying to glorify the idea that you can it doesn't have to be this or that. It could be both and.
Right. It has to be.
It has to be.
It has to be both and.
Yeah. So, all right.
A man who gets a lot of praise and has been given a platform to speak to audiences like this one today. I pray that I always use my voice for God and not for myself. Everything I am saying to you is not from a place of wisdom, but rather a place of experience. I am hopeful that these words will be seen as those from a man not much older than you, who feels it is imperative that this class, this generation, and this time in our society must stop pretending that the things we see around us are normal. Heterodox ideas abound even within Catholic circles, for let's be honest, there is nothing good about playing God with having children, whether that be your ideal number or the perfect time to conceive. No matter how you spin it, there is nothing natural about Catholic birth control. It is only in the past few years that I have grown encouraged to speak more boldly and directly, because as I mentioned earlier, I have leaned into my vocation as a husband and father,
Boom.
and as a man.
He leaned into
Gentlemen,
his
here today,
vocation as a husband and a father, not as a place kicker.
And he kicks the shit out of the ball.
He's shit out of the ball.
All right.
He's not putting a woman in any other situation than he's putting himself. He's not expecting anything out of his wife that he's not expecting of himself.
No.
There's nothing wrong with what he's saying. The Sisters of Mount St. Scholastica are way out of line.
Okay. I don't.
They're way out of line.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, with them being out of line. I feel like they didn't show him any grace.
Did they even listen? Did they only watch frickin' Fox News and CNN and listen to the little reels that they posted?
The reels take this talk completely out of context.
You cannot make that statement without listening to the entire. They shouldn't. That's irresponsible. It's irresponsible to make the statement no matter what.
Right. If you take the sound bites out of context, I do believe that it can be very easily spun into a certain narrative, and that's what the media does.
And if you're going to be a church elder, you need to say, hey, I'm going to make a response to Harrison Butker's speech. While I agree that he has some sound biblical teaching when he's talking about X, Y, and Z, I feel this was wrong. And you know what?
okay, we can
Now
have
me and
exchange.
you aren't having this conversation.
Yeah.
Now me and you aren't Monday morning quarterbacking this thing, and now me and you ain't pissing off all the Catholics. I mean, here, my kids go to Catholic school. I'm a coach at St. Pius, but I'm sorry. Spiritual leaders in the church have to be more responsible than to make blanket statements of this guy's an idiot.
Yeah, I don't think that's fair.
It's out of line.
I don't think that's fair.
And go on.
Okay.
Plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities.
Okay, boom. Once again, this is a society issue, and it's been proven over and over again that father absence is a problem.
It's a problem.
It's a problem.
100%.
Father absence is a problem, and he's talking once again about the nuclear family and the importance of it, and the Catholic Church 100% stand behind it.
They should.
Here, the sacrament, marriage is a sacrament.
It is. Yeah. It's 100% a sacrament, and he is speaking towards men being in the house. Men also fall under the category of homemaker. So I don't feel, but again, the word.
Here, could he have been more clear and concise?
I think so.
He could, 100%.
But he doesn't have an hour to give a.
He should have made it as long as he needed to make it as clear and concise as he needed to.
Right. I don't disagree with
Hey,
that.
no, you know what I'd have told them? Hey, you're asking me to speak. I'm coming, and I'm going to speak as long as I want.
Right.
And you're going to listen, and you ain't putting a time frame on me.
No.
Here, I'm going to tell you right now, the president of the school wasn't going to say shit. He was going to let him talk as long as he needed to.
Right. Because initially he told him no.
Right. And he said that.
And he said that.
So here, now, if you want me, you're going to get me.
You're going to get me, and you're going to get me in the full explanation that I'm going to give. So
Yeah.
if the commencement speech has to be an hour and a half long for me to convey clearly what I'm trying to say, guess what? It's an hour and a half long.
Because here, there's Jordan Peterson says it. He's talking about Jonah and the whale. There is consequences for not doing what you're called to do and saying what you're called to say.
Agreed. I agree.
There's consequences for that.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's what the whole entire story is about with Jonah and the whale. Is not doing what you're called to do and saying what you're called to say and the consequences that come with it. He did what he was called to do. He said what he was called to say. He probably should have elaborated a little bit more.
Probably should have elaborated a little more, but at the end of the day, I guarantee he puts his head on his very comfortable pillows.
Right? It's probably silk sheets.
And probably
He deserves them.
not losing any sleep. All right, we'll keep going.
As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation.
Catholic Church
Other
can't
countries
rebuke
do
it.
not
Go
have
on.
nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the U.S., and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well.
There you go.
He's calling men out more so than I feel like he's calling women out.
And you know what? He should.
He should.
He should take care of your shit, man.
Yeah. Take care of your shit. Be there. Be a homemaker along with your wife. Raise your families together.
Yeah.
And
Handle your business.
handle your business.
Handle your business.
Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things. Never.
Nah, I don't know what he's talking about. Cultural
Let
masculinity.
him finish.
But we'll go ahead.
Here.
I don't. That's in my in how I see it might be a little bit questionable. But let's go ahead. We'll keep going.
Once again, it has nothing to do with the Catholic Church, though.
It does not. That is a political statement.
You might have a talent that you don't necessarily enjoy, but if it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better.
Okay, so what if perhaps the man is better at staying home with the kids?
Hold on. If my wife made more money than me, I'll keep my ass home.
I have no problem.
Zero problem with it.
No problem. And I don't feel like that's emasculating.
I don't think so.
I don't. I
No,
honestly.
actually, if your wife makes more money than you and you're dumb enough to not let her work, then you deserve what you get.
Yeah. And if you guys evaluate your strong suits and you're better and happier at home, taking care of the kids, then why should you not be able to? And why should society look at you as less than?
Right. I don't disagree.
So
I have no problem with it. Now, me personally, if my wife made more money than me, I would try to figure out a way to let's both keep working and let's have even more money.
right, but if she wanted you to stay home and felt that that was a calling for your life and it was better for the kids, would you consider it?
Yeah, sure. Because I do believe that it is important for someone to be home with the kids and not have them raised by nannies and shit like that.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's my own personal opinion.
Own personal opinion.
Yeah, I would want one of us home with our kids.
Yeah.
Right.
I speak from experience as an introvert who now finds myself as an amateur public speaker and an entrepreneur, something I never thought I'd be when I received my industrial engineering degree. The road ahead is bright. Things are changing. Society is shifting.
Let's speak to this real quick. He was raised by a mother, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, that was a physicist, a highly educated woman. And so I don't believe he is in any way, shape, or form bashing his own mother.
No.
I believe she was a career woman. And if that is the case, then people should kind of consider how he was raised because it's doxed. People know.
Yeah.
So,
People, young and old, are embracing tradition. Not only has it been my vocation that has helped me and those closest to me, but not surprising to many of you, should be my outspoken embrace of the traditional Latin Mass. I've been very vocal in my love and devotion to the TLM and its necessity for our lives. But what I think gets misunderstood is that people who attend the TLM do so out of pride or preference. I can speak to my own experience, but for most people I have come across within these communities, this simply is not true. I do not attend the TLM because I think I am better than others, or for the smells and bells, or even for the love of Latin. I attend the TLM because I believe, just as the God of the Old Testament was pretty particular in how he wanted to be worshiped, the same holds true for us today. It is through the TLM that I encountered order and began to pursue it in my own life. Aside from the TLM itself, too many of our sacred traditions have been relegated to things of the past, when in my parish, things such as Ember Days, days when we fast and pray for vocations and for our priests, are still adhered to. The TLM is so essential that I would challenge each of you to pick a place to move where it is readily available. A lot of people have complaints about the parish or the community, but we should not sacrifice the Mass for community. I prioritize the TLM even if the parish isn't beautiful, the priest isn't great, or the community isn't amazing. I still go to the TLM because I believe the holy sacrifice of the Mass is more important than anything else. I say this knowing full well that when each of you rekindle your knowledge and adherence to many of the church's greatest traditions, you will see how much more colorful and alive your life can and should be. As you move on from this place and enter into the world, know that you will face many challenges. Sadly, I'm sure many of you know of the countless stories of good and active members of this community who, after graduation and moving away from the Benedictine bubble, have ended up moving in with their boyfriend or girlfriend prior to marriage.
Again, he's highlighting the...
Catholics should not argue that.
They should not argue that.
I mean, I did it wrong. And Michelle and I lived together. We had Gianna was at our wedding.
Yeah.
Okay, I've done it wrong my whole entire life. I'm not trying to make an argument that it's right.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying.
It was wrong, okay? And by the grace of God, I still have a great marriage, and,
But you've also had to put a lot of work into it.
Sure, who doesn't? But the Catholic Church should not rebuke that. They shouldn't have a problem with that
They should
statement.
not. I agree.
Even leave the church and abandon God. It is always heartbreaking to hear these stories, and there's a desire to know what happened and what went wrong. What you must remember is that life is about doing the small things well, setting yourself up for success, and surrounding yourself with people who continually push you to be the best version of you. I say this all the time, that iron sharpens iron. It's a great reminder that those closest to us should be making us better. If you are dating someone who doesn't even share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint?
Now,
Got to be equally yoked.
Got to be equally yoked.
Got to be equally yoked. There's nothing wrong with what he said there.
Nope. It's filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing to have those difficult conversations. How can they help sharpen you? As you prepare to enter into the workforce, it is extremely important that you actually think about the places.
Now, he did say just there, and he's not just talking to men, as you prepare to enter the workforce.
Yeah. Once again,
he's not just speaking to men.
no, he's talking to all of them.
He's talking to everybody.
So
There you
he's never once did he imply that a woman shouldn't go get a job.
No, he did
He's
not.
never implied that.
He's never said that. I would agree.
He never implied it.
You are moving to. Who is the bishop? What kind of parishes are there? Do they offer the TLM and have priests who embrace their priestly vocation? Cost of living must not be the only arbiter of your choices, for a life without God is not a life at all, and the cost of salvation is worth more than any career. I'm excited.
Now here, let's speak to that. The cost of salvation is worth more than any career.
Any
Career.
Not the females.
Not the female's career, not the male's career, any career.
Yeah.
So,
Excited for the future, and I pray that something I have said will resonate as you move on to the next chapter of your life. Never be afraid to profess the one holy, Catholic, and apostolic church, for this is the church that Jesus Christ established, through which we receive sanctifying grace. I know that my message today had a little less fluff than is expected for these speeches, but I believe that this audience and this venue is the best place to speak openly and honestly about who we are and where we all want to go, which is heaven. I thank God for Benedictine College and for the example it provides to the world. I thank God for men like President Minnis who are doing their part for the kingdom. Come to find out, you can have an authentically Catholic college and a thriving football program.
He probably should have thanked God for a female in a leadership position as well. But he did thank a male again.
But the president's if the president was a female, he'd have thanked her.
He would have.
Okay, so here's let's just go ahead because the speech is over.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can go ahead and shut.
Is the camera still on?
Yeah. No, that we're always recording, but
So here's the deal. So here's the thing. Could he have explained his position a little bit better? 100%.
I think
He could have explained his position a little bit better. And so people like me who listened to it, saw the rebuttals, when it wasn't a Catholic elder or a church elder, I ignored the rebuttal. Because
you gotta be speaking from the same from the same.
let's talk the
context
same
and
language.
Yeah, same.
Let's talk about apples and apples. So when a left wing, someone from the far left makes a comment that they don't like Harrison Buckner's speech, well, of course you don't.
Well,
So when you don't like it, I don't pay no attention to it. But when spiritual leaders in the church begin to rebuke it, now I go back and I listen again. And then I listen again. Because I'm thinking, am I missing something that's making these spiritual leaders rebuke this? And the answer to the question is no. I didn't miss a goddarn thing. They did.
I feel like they could have spent a little bit more time.
They listened to this one time and then made this statement, the Sisters of Mount Scholastica.
And they could have shown Harrison Buckner a lot more grace.
Here, they don't need to show him grace. They need to listen to what he's exactly saying.
Okay. No.
And if you want to rebuke it, here. Hey, I didn't like X, Y, and Z, but when he's talking about abortion, homosexuality, gender confusion, when he's talking about these things, he's talking about it from a place of, here, the church is against this all, and I agree with that part of it.
And what's very interesting about his speech is, from what you read to me, they didn't speak about anything they liked about it.
Well, the only thing they disliked about it was the homemaker part of it. They didn't speak about nothing else. The Sisters of Mount Scholastica only bitched and complained about the homemaker part. Read it. You want me to read it again?
Yeah, let's go ahead and hear it again.
I'll read it again. They didn't bitch about nothing else. Hold on. Okay. The Sisters of Mount St. Scholastica do not believe that Harrison Buckner's comments in his 2024 Benedictine College commencement address or represent the Catholic Benedictine Liberal Arts College that our founders envisioned, in which we have been so invested. That paragraph is incredibly irresponsible because it acts like they're rebuking everything that he said, which the Catholic Church is in no position to do that.
No, I agree with that. You cannot rebuke.
You cannot do that.
No.
Okay. Instead of promoting unity in our church, our nation, and our world, his comments seem to have fostered division. One of our concerns was the assertion that being a homemaker is the highest calling. Our community has taught young women and men not just how to be homemakers in the limited sense. Every other paragraph after that is about the homemaker component. That's all, that was their only gripe. They didn't gripe against anything else, but they did make a blanket statement that they do not believe Harrison Buckner's comments. Which comments?
Yeah.
In his 2024 Benedictine College commencement address, represent the Catholic Benedictine Liberal Arts College. What comments? Then they only go bitch about the homemaker thing, but according to that paragraph, they didn't agree with anything that he said.
That's what I'm hearing. They said
that is an irresponsible comment to post on Facebook as a spiritual leader in the Catholic Church. You have no business making that comment. None.
And so I think from our standpoint, we would ask the sisters to maybe write a revision.
Me personally, I can't believe that the bishop's not telling him to write a revision. Or whoever the hell is it, the archbishop? I don't even know the hierarchy.
I don't know.
Whoever the shot caller is should have read this and said, take it down.
It's time to write a revision.
Or write a revision, one of the two.
Right. Because
this is completely, like Officer Bimbo said, this shit is way out of line.
I would.
It's way out of line.
I would agree with that.
And this isn't the only one.
No, I'm sure
There's been church elders all throughout Facebook. Oh, this guy's an idiot. This guy this guy that, this guy this. Come on.
And let's be honest. If the media didn't pick up on this speech, would the church?
No. The answer to your question is no.
They would not have made a statement at all. They would not have.
They're too concerned with keeping people in the pews from the left versus voicing sound biblical teaching. I'll stand on that hill all day long.
And I happen to agree that I do not think the Facebook post or any of the comments would have been made had this not made national news.
Yeah.
That's
all it is.
It would have been just okay.
They're trying to keep people from the left with untraditional values in the pews, which here, you do want them in the pews because you do want to continue to work on them, but you don't do it this way.
And we're not going to say that everybody who's on the left is not Catholic or Christian. You can still be on the left and be Catholic or Christian.
But what he's saying is you can't support.
He didn't speak left or right at all.
But you can't support leftist views. Where I have my issue is supporting leftist views and still calling yourself a Catholic or Christian. What do the leftists believe? They're pro-life. They're pro-choice. Okay, right? Okay?
Yes.
They're pro-gay marriage. They're pro all this the gender ideologies. They're pro all that stuff. You can't call yourself a Christian and a Catholic. The Bible speaks out against it over and over and over again. Once again, we're talking about the act, not the person.
Right.
We're talking about the act, and in no way, shape, or form are their sins any worse than mine. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal here, but the Catholic Church doesn't support. Here, the Catholic Church shamed the shit out of me when I had a son out of wedlock.
And let's speak to that. Let's speak about some of the things that they did to you.
They shamed the absolute shit out of me in 1995 when I had a child outside of wedlock. I wasn't allowed to be up for homecoming king. I wasn't allowed to escort my girlfriend who was up for homecoming queen. I almost wasn't allowed to play in a homecoming game. They put me in a room and told me it was bad enough that my name was in the paper every Sunday, that they didn't want me representing St. Pius. Okay, so here.
How is that showing you any grace?
Here, if it was any other kid other than me who just genuinely don't give a fuck, even now, even more now than I did then, they could have really done some damage to that kid, whoever it was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting that you bring up that very instance, because I do recall all of those things happening.
All of them. Don't you remember I didn't want to go to school the day of the homecoming game and Byers made me come to school?
Yeah.
And then I got 4 touchdowns. Benny Palm, and then after the 4th one, Benny goes, "You think your name's going to be in the paper?" Because he wanted to show him a little fuck you too.
Yeah. I mean,
but the administration 100% shamed the absolute shit out of me, but they don't want to shame homosexuality. Here, you know what? Was I wrong? Yeah, I was wrong. I had premarital sex.
Yeah.
I was wrong. It was wrong. It is what it is. Did it again. Gianna was at my wedding. Did it again. Wrong both times. I'm not trying to make it right. I'm not trying to make an argument that it's right.
I think you would even say to that fact that your life probably would have been a lot easier had you not had a child when you were in high school.
Well, listen, it was difficult, and there was plenty of parents who didn't want me dating their daughters, but I get it. I mean, look, I was in the situation. If a 16-year-old kid came over to my house who had a baby and wanted to date Gianna, I would feel uncomfortable with it.
and that's okay.
Now, would I eventually offer grace? 100% because I've been there. But I got it. I'm like, here, I get it. I'm 16 and I understood it. I see exactly why parents didn't want me dating their daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it.
My feelings weren't even hurt because of it.
But of all people who should have offered you grace and forgiveness, you would have assumed that the Catholic Church and the leadership of the Catholic Church would have been showing grace and forgiveness, and they didn't. They ostracized you, tried to exclude you.
Yeah.
And
so much for inclusive.
Right.
So much for universal and open to all. I mean, let's just go ahead and call a spade a spade.
Right.
You know, and not only did they do it to me, okay, they did it to other people who were in the same situation and didn't evolve at all since 1995, because I was talking to one of the seniors back in 2020, and he told me of a girl that got pregnant. They pulled the same bullshit with her.
Which I think speaks to a local issue that probably should have some light shed upon it.
And what they should be doing is saying, yes, is Frank wrong? Was he supposed to have premarital sex? No, we're not going to support that. But we are going to help him bring this baby up in the Catholic Church. And we are going to love and support it. And we are going to love and support him. And that's what they should have done.
Right. I agree.
But they were too busy highlighting my shit to fucking cover their own.
Right. They were too busy shaming you for your mistakes. So I think we've covered a lot here.
I think
Frank.
we have, and I'm pretty tired.
And we're not here. If you find what we say controversial,
it is.
It's controversial.
It is what it is.
And if you have or want to leave a comment verbalizing your opinion, we welcome opposing opinions. And at the end of the day, I think I speak for you and for me that love conquers all. We hate the sin, we love the sinner, and we want to do as God says, which is to love others as we love ourselves.
There you go.
So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.